So one of Rakim's new maps, Acropolis, inspired by Acropolis from Age of Mythology. Lovely map, this one. Start on this nice high ground and people aren't walling up too much at the start on it, which is nice. Pair of really close hunts there. There might be a gold mine at the back here. Not so for Grungy, unfortunately. But he does have a second hunt on the high ground, may have other resources as well. And here in the middle, you've got water, but it's not exactly game breaking. I mean, it's not too hard to try and get a nice market line going on this map anyway. It's also not going to be the greatest of market lines oftentimes, just because of how the hills are going to work if you're going to relay it back from up the top here down to the low ground. In fact, you might even be best off putting your markets here or here and just working your way down to a nice town centre down on the map. So who's going to go for the water first? Grungy? FF, not going to commit to it, going to just go straight for age 2, having gathering stone already. So FF doesn't see the dock. Very unfortunate, man. Aren't you even ready to hide the sheep from the scout this time? FF is going to see the dock. What's his response going to be? He's going to go age 2 anyway. Not going to cancel it. But Grungy's going to get a second dock. Or attempt to. Just to really deny FF to have the opportunity to have a comeback on the water here. Because FF now really has to try and get a dock over here. And then maybe a second over here just to equalize warship production. And he might even just choose to Castellum and Tower this part of the map anyway. Because I mean the Castellum, if you get Presidium upgrade and then just support it with the tower, it's be a nice beefy little blockade. Deny these fishing schools. And I mean if he gets a town center here, he can deny this one up here. War dogs incoming perhaps? Release the hounds? So Grungy, no age 2 just yet. FF getting that town center. What's the line of sight on those? 36. 38 in the outpost. So Grungy can just see that. If he hides the dogs, if this outpost is just outside of range, this is going to be interesting. It all comes down to this. So Grungy, he's going to need a lot of food for this, so getting the double dock is important because it just really intimidates your opponent into not bothering to get any docks. And now Grungy can just go straight up to like, there we go. I was going to say go straight up to 5 ships, cut at like land, food eco, and just work towards town center. So yeah, Grungy's looking in a really great spot here because FF hasn't scouted any of this. As soon as this... Yeah, and he can't see it. Oh, this is just perfect for Grungy. So Grungy would have seen those villagers move out too. He can even see the edge of the Praetorium. If he interrupts this is going to be huge. So the dogs, safe and sound. Grungy just needs a little bit more food. So he's even going up to 6 ships. Just to secure enough production here, because Warhounds now cost 25 instead of 20. This is costing him 50 rather than 40 food every 4 seconds just to get these guys out. Grungy's committing to a long ship, but I don't know why he's bothering. He probably could just add even more ships if he wants. But yeah, when this Decurion pops out, the dogs are just going to be able to kill it. Although Grungy's going to try and tempt fate first and see if he can get some villagers. But this is a little bit dangerous because you don't really want to be ferrying individual or pairs of dogs through here. Just because, look, the damage that they're going to be taking through all this, even though they're producing super fast, you're going to lose one or nearly one every single time. And there is going to be a couple of Decurions out in the field now. So the dogs need to be very careful because Grungy's going to bleed a lot of food here if he actually sticks around and gets the kills. So the dogs aren't going to... Oh, the dogs... Oh, this is going to be an interesting one. The Decurion is going to get kited. I mean, he's going to kite back out of there. The dog's not enough. Yeah, it is just enough to get one Decurion, but... Man, that was like... 8 dogs, man. I don't think that was actually worth it, man. And now the recovery from FF, because FF has that other Decurion in play out of production. Another 2 of them, actually. But did I not see that? Oh, he does. Must have been on the edge of threat radius. Oh, but this is really rough for FF. Oh, he does lose a villager out of it too. I mean, that was alright for Grungy, but it could have been so much better. Like, if he had played that even greedier, with getting even more dogs, and just, like, focusing the Decurions outside the town centre, I think he could have got a lot of value out of that, you know. Because when you're not fighting under the town centre, and when you're actually full health from not having to run past all that range damage, before you've actually got your 3rd upgrade on the dogs to really give them, I think it's like 30% pierce armor. Man, it's you're just bleeding a lot of health, and these days they are back up to 25 resources, 25 food instead of 20. So it just makes them that little bit less disposable than they once were. And the barracks outpost combo are going to be disrupted a little, but there are going to be some spears popping out. So Grungy's actually mixed this up. He's got 2 of them producing spears, 1 producing TAs. Just really smooth stuff here. Just to really mess with the Norse player. I mean, really mess with the Roman player. That Decurion does make it out in time. But oh, this is really... Grungy used to scout to build the barracks here and get this little proxy off. And now FF is going to be running into spears with Decurions, which isn't all that great, but he's pulled everything back home and he's going to be able to clean this up. Oh, I was going to say, if Grungy can just pick off that Decurion, he can get a little bit of value out of this, because he is just going to lose this now. But he's really pressured FF into the corner. He's going into age 3 now. He does have that second town centre a lot earlier than Grungy though. I don't think this is in the greatest of spots. Right now Grungy could have had these army units building all this production, which is great for the Norse player, because like if you can harass with a part of your army while just building up everything in your base just with your own, like you're getting so much value out of all your gatherers just gathering, rather than having to build, because all your infantry is doing your building. So, you know, as your opponent's scaling up his army and his army production, he's got to actually invest in units to do it. And I mean, the engineers, I mean, Romans, they sort of already get that value themselves, because NGs are a dedicated, more expensive villager that just builds super quickly. The Roman player gonna have to deal with some harass now. But these Norse units need to focus a building because they're not really any good spread out across buildings. This Praetorium. Ooh, if it goes down fast before Decurion Champion, this is going to be great. Yeah, ooh, that's a big blow to the Roman player at the moment. So, Legionary Champions come in, but Decurion Champion's been interrupted. And more production might yet fall. So the barracks is going to go down. So will one of the Centurions. But I don't think Grungy wants to take the fight just yet. Actually, maybe he does. He just wants to gauge his opponent's army and get good unit priority. Right now, the Roman army has just forced the Norse player back to just throwing axemen. But here's some dogs in to support. These guys are really going to interrupt these Decurions. So FF now quite behind after a bit of a rough fight there. And he's got age 3 now, but he doesn't have any of his siege out just yet. He's lost a little bit of production. Bolsters coming out now. But so are some Norse towers. So Grungy, has he hasn't got Thor's hammer just yet. So these guys are actually going to take quite some time to build this. Grungy's going to have to be careful that he hasn't got too many units sitting out of the fight, because he's going to need to try and build these quickly, but at the same time mount successful fights and discourage his opponent from really breaking him here. Some dogs incoming to interrupt. Ooh. The tower going to be able to hit the armory, but Scale Mail are going to finish off here. Grungy, FF might even be able to finish iron smelting if it's only the towers that are attacking this here. And right now there is Scorpios in play, so this is going to be great for the Roman player. Well, the dogs only really attacking an empty storehouse at this point. But Grungy's Silver Age kicking in. His water eco not going to last forever here, but he has. Well, he's got a little bit still. He's got close to 3,000. These dogs only have minor impact, but what's going on down here might really break FF, because as long as the Scorpios can get focused down here rather than the Decurions, this can be devastating for the Roman player. But Grungy needs more dogs, more raiders, and maybe slightly less throwing axemen, or to split them up and try and focus the Scorps down with them. It's not an easy comp to engage as the Norse player right now. But the Roman player having to retreat further and further back. That's a great number of Scorpios there. Oh, the third town centre for Grungy hasn't been started yet. Oh, here we go. He's got more vills heading across to do it. But Dog Mastery coming in. And more raiders. But I think Grungy could probably do with a second stables. So he really just needs to chop down these Scorps before FF can get that many of them. That TAs and buildings just die. So FF's trying to wall off the top side of his base now. And he is going to try and get back on that storehouse. The hounds popping out 4 seconds apiece. This fortress is a bit of a nuisance for these raiders trying to stack up over here. Great number of Scorps here. Aquilifer in the mix. So Grungy looking at putting the pressure on with the War Dogs right now. How many of them does he? He's got pretty much all of them over here. But he really needs to interrupt this wall going up. Because if he can do so, it makes it really hard for FF to do anything. But, oh, that's a lot of throwing axemen going down right now. But this extension from FF might be a little bit much, because if Grungy can hit him with the Raiders, these Scorps are all going to go down. The Dogs putting the pressure on, 36 of them chipping away, so FF going to have to deal with this eventually. So he's going to bring everything back, and the Raiders finding a couple of villages to mess with. Can Grungy see the army? So Grungy, having forced FF to bring some army units back to deal with the Dogs. This is nice for him, but right now FF's trying to survive against the massive wall of the Scorps. I mean, against the massive wall of the Raiders and throwing axemen. Keeping the Scorps alive, but he's lost 5 of them already. Most of his front line's going down. I think Grungy may have enough to have overwhelmed him. GG. Nicely done.